Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Mavericks After Dark, Free Agency Night 1 edition. I'm Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief over at MavsMoneyball.com. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. You'll notice my ambiance, my camera quality is garbage, and that's because my wife did not give a shit that it was free agency, and our office is adjacent to our bedroom. So I'm down here in the kitchen making do with what I can. And much like the Dallas Mavericks making do with what I can, the Mavericks opened up free agency. Took about an hour. Took about an hour for the Mavericks to come to terms with Kyrie Irving, a 3-year, $126 million deal, with year 3 being a player option. We're going to talk about this deal quite a bit tonight, so I don't want to necessarily get into the weeds right now. I will specifically note that I do tend to agree with the immediate criticism from non-Mavericks people that the Mavericks were bidding against no one. No one. I mean, there was no one on the market that wanted Kyrie Irving. So all the leverage, all that he was going to meet with such and such today was essentially, sorry, my dog just ran in through the dog door like a lunatic. Was essentially the agent leveraging whatever she could. His agent is his stepmother, and sort of creating leverage out of thin air, which is what what an agent is supposed to do. Now, what I particularly find interesting about that is the sense that it worked. When you're working with a player kind of as mercurial as Kyrie Irving, I think there's a sense of you want to pay him something that, he was eligible for the max, a 5-year, $271 million deal. He was eligible for a salary north of $50 million a year. And in a different environment, had, certain off-course incidents not occurred, he probably would have gotten it from the Mavericks or from someone or from the Nets, but he's just had a really rocky few years. So instead you come down to 3 years, $126 million, roughly $42 million a year. No, I mean, it is $42 million a year, though the way the salary will be steeped, it'll probably be, a 8% growth year over year, with the first year being whatever it is. You want to be able to pay him something that essentially comes down to him feeling respected, which I think is important. I still don't entirely understand, though, why that means you have to give him all the years and the player option in particular. He's 30-year-old, small guard, history of injuries, some of them really, truly freak, which I think is a fair enough thing to consider. He might be super healthy this year. This year just might be different. According to Tim McMahon, it seems that Luka basically, made a call in to him and suggested that the Mavericks needed him, which I think is true. You make the trade that they did last year. You trade a 2029 unprotected first rounder. You kind of have to go in and go ahead and make that trade. I kind of thought the Mavericks might be done for the night, which was interesting. And then news broke roughly 90 minutes ago, because it's 10:30 for those listening on a podcast. It's 10:30 on Friday night on June 30th, and sorry, my dog is drinking water. Just top quality podcasting. Only the best from you guys here at Mavs Moneyball. The Mavericks signed old Maverick, thrice now Maverick, Seth Curry agrees to terms with the team. He joined the team in 2016, and I want to say it was 2019 as well, all on very reasonable terms. He joins using the, what is it called? The BAE. It's a little over $4 million. I mean, for a movement shooter and statistically speaking, the literal best shooter in NBA history, fine. It doesn't fill any of the Mavericks' needs whatsoever. They desperately need a position. Now, hear me out, guys. Let me know if you've ever heard of this position before. It's referred to as a forward. We've not had one of those in quite some time. Particularly last year, the Mavericks finished the year with Reggie Bullock playing power forward at some point, when I would argue he is basically a shooting guard. Okay, so that's sort of the gist of the show. We got a fair number of people in here. I do want it noted that this is a therapy or a Mavs party, depending on how you want to go with it. And if you would like to join the show, in the comments of the YouTube channel, there is a link. I'm going to post it again. It will take you to the StreamYard waiting room. If you want to come up and talk, we'll talk. I'll get through most people tonight. I don't have anything to do. It's Friday night. What am I going to do? I'm a married guy with kids. Like, what? Nothing happens. I got 3 people already waiting. But if you got takes off, we'll try to get through as many people as we can, assuming your internet is functional. Just be listening for your name, and I will bring you up here, and we will hang out for a little while. Coming up first is my friend Brian, Mavs Moneyball staffer. Brian Zillum, what's going on, dude?
It's Friday. I think the free agency crap has finally stopped, Chief.
For the night? I mean, you think we won't get stuff until like 1 or 2 in the morning? I do.
Well, I mean, what shoes are the drop at this point? I mean, we've got Lopez. That's a big one. Grant Williams, Reeves potentially. But, I mean, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, the Troy Browns of the world signed before Kyrie Irving, which is just completely nutty to me.
Yeah, and so you and I were kind of talking about that in Slack, and it's kind of worth revisiting that conversation, because I think it's a kind of conversation that you're going to be having, you, meaning Mavs fans of the world, are going to be having with friends who are less diehard than you. Let me just walk everyone through how this goes. Despite all of the precautions and the basically threats of fines and everything that's going on in the NBA world, deals are still done before the NBA free agency moratorium period kicks off. Deals can't actually be signed for like a week, but now everybody's legally allowed to talk. That implies that there's no illegal talking going on, let alone legal talking within your own free agents. Like, the Mavericks have been allowed to talk to Kyrie Irving for some time.
Sure.
And so what I think happened today, and this is just my opinion, I have zero sourcing to back this up, but Kyrie's representation essentially spooked the Mavericks into offering probably their fallback position. I'm pretty sure they could have gotten Kyrie Irving for 2 years. Probably same years, or probably same like basic salary structure, roughly $40 million. But my opinion is I think they could have gotten him for 2 years. Now, one of the things you were very frustrated about in our Slack is, and this is true, Kyrie Irving sort of beget everything else that needs to happen for the offseason. So the thought process becomes, is it worth it for the Mavericks to go ahead and give him that player option deal and deal with it down the road? They clearly determined yes. I am not the GM. I am not currently in a position to second guess that. Bill Simmons guessed 3 years, $120 million a week ago. So to end at 3 years, 126, when I was sort of, my like upset position was going to be, 4 years, 215, because that was the 4 year max. Like,
Yeah.
So to end up where they are, and granted, it's not my money, it's not our money, but it does affect team building.
Sure.
And so I think with where they are, considering the chips that they pushed into the table, I think I'm okay with it. What about you, Brian?
I don't love the player option. I kind of just, it kind of gives me this a weird pit in my stomach. In about a year and a half, we're going to do this weird song and dance with Kyrie again. Maybe in a year, depending on what like headspace he's in. You know what I mean? Like that does kind of it's super worrisome. But to me, if this was part of the leverage ploy, if Bill Simmons is correct, where if this year 3, I think it was not only the year 3, but I think that player option heavily played into Kyrie's leverage. I think because I fear, like I'm just speculating here. I have not seen anything, but
Sure.
I think this was the Mavericks did not want to say Kyrie no, because if they say no, then he's liable to go off and do Kyrie type things and say, well,
right.
maybe
Do you want him entering the season pissed off about
No.
the contract that he signed?
God, no, absolutely not. You're already kind of in a horrible situation.
I mean, like you traded for this.
Yes.
Like, that's the real fucking thing. So it's like, if you don't like this, and I understand that we have people on the Mavs Moneyball staff who do not like this deal. They didn't like it in March and in February.
Right.
So you got to be consistent. If you don't like this now, but you liked the deal then, I don't understand how you would reach that conclusion. Like you don't go in for like, you're in for a penny and you're in for a pound, so to speak, when it comes to Kyrie Irving.
Absolutely. And at this point, you have to dance with the devil that you came to dance with. And like in a vacuum, the money I was fearful that the Mavericks were going to be foolish enough and give him 4 years and $200 million, and they didn't. Yep. So and then in a vacuum, that's a win, right? Yep. But just the fact that him potentially holding you up, and you lost out on not only your A to B, but you lost on your C, D, F type people that you could have. Not that Taurean Prince was going to move the needle, not that Troy Brown was going to move the needle. I quite frankly think the Bruce Brown stuff was kind of more lip service than anything. I never thought that was a realistic option for the Mavs, but that it sucks to miss out on these guys. And these are useful people that you could have used to upgrade it on the roster. The Seth Curry move is intriguing, I suppose, because yes, you add more shooting, but I mean, this was already like a historical good offensive team ever. So like,
sure.
It seems a little tad redundant. And I even asked, Matthew in our Slack channel, doesn't Curry on the team potentially hinder Jaden Hardy's minutes? To me,
not if we play 5 guards. Luka at center. Let's play a whole bunch of fucking short dudes. We're gonna run out like the Rick Carlisle
dream
lineup of his dream. That's gonna be great. I can't wait. Like Jaden Hardy, power forward. Like that's what the future that we have.
Yeah, and it is interesting how based on everything, like the fans vibe, and then what the message from the front office, we were going to get better, bigger defensively. Like there was going to be
we still could. I don't know how, but we still could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of going with my gut here. I wonder if that Bogdanovich THJ trade is still potentially on the table.
So this is the thing I think you got to remember, because it's day one and people tell me this too. Yeah. I don't believe they're anywhere close to done, because here's the deal. We make jokes about this, but they don't have any small forwards on the lineup. Like that's not right. They have no small forwards. Well, no, that's not true. They just have Omax. Omax is the only one though. Like you need some depth in forward. And is there a Grant Williams deal out there? It's really something. Like I think that there's still options that are out there for the Mavericks, and it's mainly a matter of seeing what they can try to get done. Is sort of where I settle
for sure. And full circle back to the Kyrie stuff. That's the thing that kind of sucks now, because even though like the Grant Williams that you could potentially entertain, he's gonna get money whipped by somebody. And the Mavericks can't do anything about that. It's like, kind of the same thing with Bruce Brown. Like they couldn't offer Bruce Brown $23 million a year. They didn't have the space for it. They could have offered
but I mean, when you go through the guys that were signed today, like outright, is there anybody that I really wish they would have gotten? There's perhaps one in Taurean Prince. That's about all. This free agent class sucked on its face.
For sure.
And that's sort of like, you got to kind of come back to that and say, all right, well, what were the Mavericks doing any differently? I still think there's a lot of opportunity for trades and things of that nature, as we move ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to myself if I say I would have liked the idea of Gabe Vincent on this team. Right. I think that would have been really fun. Like, he's a guy. I mean, Rui was obviously a guy that, like,
I would have hated Rui. Like, guys that I know I would have hated in advance.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, he would have been Christian Wood 3.0 probably. So that's not much to cry home about. I mean, obviously, the most interesting names is, I think I even joked to folks in the Slack channel, like, maybe the Mavs should just quadruple down and just go after Brook Lopez at this point. Why not? Like, I mean,
no, because and where they really run into challenges at the moment is they have 5 kind of bleh centers on the roster. That's a different. I had the list somewhere that just really, really, really made me laugh. So you got Maxi Kleba on the roster. You got Derek Lively on the roster. You have Dwight Powell, who everyone and their uncle has said is coming back. JaVale McGee and Rashawn Holmes. I don't have a problem. Like, together, they're one hell of a center, is what I'll say.
So are the Mavericks going to end up using this MLE on Powell?
Oh, yeah. No, they will. You never let resources go to waste. Now, might they have to overpay? I don't know.
Man. So can we still, like, I guess in a vacuum, we can still be happy about how
I'm quite happy. I am just not I think I got it because I have 7 people waiting. I want to talk about this with different people. I'm kind of curious about is what is the overarching plan? What is the plan? Because over the last couple of days, one of the things people have said to me is like, I'm not sure that Derek Lively, even Chuck Cooperstein was like, well, maybe it's a red shirt year for Derek Lively. I'm sorry, don't fucking tank and then pick a guy at 12 and then say he's going to red shirt for the year. Not a thing.
Can I go off here for a second? Like, you do not draft him to, like, not play him. That is so absolutely fucking stupid. Like, you can't, like, I think you and I have commended Kidd several times on how he brought Hardy along last season, but you cannot, like, that's completely, it's a malpractice of resources if you're doing that.
And I don't think they do that. It was just a batshit thing for someone to say out loud where it's like, well, what if we just didn't really play the first, like, the guy that we had told Luka we had to go get? Because that's what you did. Like, you said, we need to get this pick. We're going to use it. But Brian, hey, man, thanks for kicking us off.
Yes, buddy. All right.
Talk soon. Be good.
Yes.
All right. Coming up next is my man, Leo. Leo, what is going on?
Hello. Can y'all hear me great?
I can hear you pretty well.
All right. So did you enjoy yourself in Mexico first off?
Yes and no. I was sick for like most of the trip.
Ooh.
That and the food was terrible at where I went. So it's like those two things together is just a little rough.
Wait, how'd you get bad food in Mexico? Where'd you go?
My wife picked the place, man. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this podcast. So
I told
she knows I ranted about the food.
Oh God. Well, back to Mavs stuff. I mean, one of the contributors from Mavs Moneyball, Matthew Phillips himself, had tweeted out earlier today, like, I think we might have underestimated how much this front office is gonna put on top of our rookies like Omax to play heavy minutes starting off their career.
I mean, I just don't have a problem with it. The Luka, I personally believe, with 8, like, he missed the first 8 games. We lost all 8 of those games. He sat for rest when he was not hurt. If you play Luka, you win 4 of those games. We make the fucking playoffs. So I think with a very similar team from last year, throw in some rookies. The rookies are going to make mistakes. No bigger mistakes than JaVale McGee. it's one of these things where I'm fine with rookies playing. Now, rookies are going to foul a lot. Like Derek Lively has a fouling problem, but I'm okay. I would rather see rookies make mistakes than see guys I've seen for the past 5 years play again. That's just me.
It looks like Tim Cato's about to give you a really bad afternoon on there.
Is Tim down below? I see him in the chat. Is he
Yeah,
down there waiting. He hasn't requested to speak yet. So that we're
but I mean, how much of this gets fixed if we move Luka up a spot in the size in the position charts? Like, is it crazy to say we start playing Luka defensively at the 4 or the 3, and does that open up like a little bit better like size options for us? Because at that point, Luka's 6'7".
I'd be fine with it, but what they've traditionally done is hid Luka on whoever sucks. And so are you getting the Luka commitment to fucking play defense and not loaf around and stand there? That's kind of the question.
Well, as much as we love Luka and as much as the offensive load he carries, it is also a point. It's also like a thing of his that he has to play better defense. Because there's no way that Dorian was holding up all of our defense. Like, that's a crazy thing to say. I love Dorian. That man is my profile picture on here. But you're not telling me Dorian Finney-Smith was holding up all of our defense, any integrity that we had.
Well, it depends which year. Like last year, like Dorian looked like burnt toast the whole year. So it was like there was no defense to speak of.
But after we traded his size, our defense was sizably worse. The only person on the roster who could play like any sort of defense was Josh, and Josh is only 6'6", and you and Josh Bowe.
Josh is 6'4".
Is he really not?
Yeah, Josh is a shooting guard. Then it's you put Jaden Hardy and him side by side. I bet they are remarkably close in height.
I thought that the numbers weren't as biffed as they used to be. I thought like it was a lot more common to get like actual numbers.
I'll report back after going to Vegas.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kirk. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, buddy. Talk soon. All right. Tim said he wanted to talk, but until he can figure it out, Tim, I posted the thing in there. You can click on it and join. But until then, we're going to go to stalwart and friend of the show, Brandon. How you doing, buddy?
Kirk, I'm doing well, and my internet is faster today, so hopefully it doesn't.
We got it. The beard looks sharp today, too. It's a lush Fred Van Vliet looking beard. You look good.
With a little bit more gray and less money.
Shoot, man. 130 million.
Man, Kirk, you know what? I think Dallas. Sheesh. 130 million, man. And that guy is, that's the new normal. You know what I mean? That's the asking price. Man, I mean, Dallas, I think they did good, man, because the West, they're not getting more defensive. They're getting more adapt to scoring points. And so to me, I feel like Nico in the front office is like, man, we got to be ready to run with these guys. We can't do it with no old dogs. We got to have some youth out there that's at least going to, be able to go back and forth, because these teams are getting way more athletic, even though they don't have great rosters in the West. They're still, they're doing what Sacramento's doing. They're getting ready to run these dudes up off the court. So, Dallas got 4 young guys, the 2 rookies, Hardy and Green, and they got two stars, and, they got a role player in Seth and a role player in Tim. So worst come to worst, they do got some, they do got some talent. That's more than what they've had in the past. So I feel like they're looking at the West while they're making these decisions, and they're really doing more strategic planning than kind of reactive and freaking out.
So one of the things that I'm it's a joke, but I'm also pleased about this is now when Jason Kidd calls the Mavericks a young team, he'll be accurate. And I won't fly into a blind rage about that when it's a team of 30-year-olds. So it's the youngness of the team is going to be interesting. There's a nice mix of veterans and youth, and that should be a lot of fun to at least sink our teeth into for the first part of the year.
And this is one of the milestones that Dallas has never hit. They never had, besides the early Mavs, they never had a young team. They've always had a mix. So now they got, younger players. They never had clean books either. So to me, I look at the 3 years that they gave Kyrie as, I don't see a problem with it, because after those 3 years, you got to look and see who's still on the books. And if they don't sign somebody big with, around that time, re-up somebody that's kind of stupid, they're going to have clean books. And it's going to be the first time in a long time, if any, that they've had something that they can actually look at. Dallas never been in a position where they could do a salary dump, where they could take in bad contracts. They've always got bad contracts, and they're always taking in bad contracts just because they need talent. Worst case scenario, Nico brought in young talent, and then at the end of Kyrie's tenure, clean books, and that'd be the best Dallas be able to say they've done financially in a long time. So, being optimistic, that's better than what, it's what happened in the previous regime.
So would you say that thus far through the draft and free agency, are you pretty pleased with how things have gone?
I wouldn't say that I'm pleased. I would say that it's more, I'm more optimistic about this season than in the past because, I would say I'm pleased because they didn't do anything stupid. They stayed out of their way. Outside of some, they don't have really terrible contracts. McGee is a bad contract, but it's not long term, so it's not a terrible contract. They don't have one where it's like 4 years and this guy's just going to sit there. Like, look at the Willie Cauley-Stein contract. They couldn't get rid of it. McGee just has a few years left on his contract. So they don't have very long contracts that's going to, put them
I don't
in a
think
bad
McGee
position.
lasts the offseason. I think they find a way to move him some way, somehow. I really do. So. Well, Brandon, you got any
if they move McGee, Tim, like you said before in the last show. No, I don't, Kirk. I don't. I just want to say thanks, man, and keep doing what you do, bro.
Appreciate you, buddy. Talk soon.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right. Coming up next, before I bring our next guest on, I want you to do me a favor if you can. Really would like it if you could go down and hit the like button. That thing's very helpful on the stream. Go ahead and hit the like button. Puts more people in their algorithm. It's a popular show. Not a popular show. There's 100 people listening. Who gives a shit? But if you could also then consider doing me a favor and hitting the subscribe button as well. Little by little, we go ahead and grow the show. Now, coming up next is an actual journalist. You won't know this by his attire, but I promise you, Tim Cato, one of my former boss, dear friend. Tim, welcome to the show.
That's not my display name. I'm not Tim Cato. How can you possibly
Tim
know
in
that?
Dallas who won't get traded for anybody who listens on the thing. That's real good. Big time Timmy Jim. What's going on?
I don't know, man. I'm just chilling. There hasn't been any moves in a while, so I'm like, why don't I just like pop onto various live streams that are going on right now?
I like it.
So I don't really have anything to say. I mean, if I have stuff to say, I'll say it for
you need
the
to save it
platforms
for
I
your
get
own
paid
damn
for,
reporting.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. But do you want any thoughts? Do you have any questions?
I do kind of the Seth Curry signing on its face. Your opinion both as a basketball analyst than as a basketball journalist. Does it make any sense with what the Mavericks have now, or should we kind of be thinking about future moves?
I mean, again, I'm talking as an analyst, I'm not reporting anything, but like, there's no way that you sign Seth Curry if Tim Hardaway Jr. is coming back. And I'm not the first person. I've said in the past that Tim Hardaway Jr., someone who's been, the team's tried to trade, and I have to think that this is one move setting up the next move. Now, where exactly Tim Hardaway goes and what it's setting up, that is the question. But there's no way. Like you're replacing volume 3-point shooting by going and getting another, long-standing complaint about Seth Curry is that he's not actually a volume 3-point shooter, right? Like this dude actually only takes shots when he's very, very wide open. And so he's not a direct replacement. But I also think it's a little bit much to think that Jaden Hardy was just going to completely fill Tim Hardaway Jr.'s role next season. And so you go get another, really knockdown 3-point shooter. And between the two of them, maybe you kind of make it work.
I mean, right? Seth is the kind of player that terrorizes defenses, because one open shot from him, like Hardaway is so hot cold that where it's just like, he misses his first three, you kind of live with it. But Curry is just, he's statistically the best 3-point shooter in NBA history percentage wise. He's that good. And
right.
I just think he brings a certain bending of your defense.
I think Hardaway had gravity, but I think the gravity that you're describing with Seth is what you're really replacing. When Hardaway gets traded, and again, just based off this move,
sure,
I think it's got to be guaranteed. Just looking at the salary, I think you may have said, and you could also make the same prediction as I can. But yeah, I think what you're trying to replace is the gravity, and you're trying to replace the spacing.
Yeah.
Even as much as you're trying to replace the raw 3-point attempts.
He's not the healthiest of guys either. So it's like, if you get 55 games out of Seth Curry, you're kind of get for $4 million over 2 years. You live with that. So let me ask you a little more pointed question, and please just say, I do not want to answer this if you don't want to, but to start the show, I shared my opinion that I think the Mavericks ended up bidding against themselves in an attempt to make sure Kyrie came into the year feeling respected, because my light reporting work, I'm not a reporter like you, but I do talk to a lot of different people. He had no offers. So I'm trying to understand where this came from.
I'll say that I tried to figure out what the exact structure of the Kyrie deal was, and nobody's saying yet. Nobody else has reported it yet. My suspicion about what that could mean is that it depends on what they do with the BAE, which they have since used on Seth Curry.
Right.
And how much of the MLE they use. Because I don't know, if I'm an NBA player, I would always want a contract front loaded, right?
Yeah.
Like it makes sense to get money now. That just makes sense generally as a human being, that if you can get more money up front, you can do more with it, and it's better that way. It also probably makes more sense to be front loaded in an NBA context, that you got more options later on. If you want to get traded.
Yep.
And so I wonder, just speculating here, I wonder if they're like, hey, we'll do 8% max raises over the next 3 years, but if we don't use everything, we're going to structure it, we're going to front load it as much as possible. It won't actually be front loaded. Like, it's going to be an increasing salary structure.
Right.
I would have to think. But I wonder if they're like, hey, we're trying to use the MLE. We're going to try to use as much of it as we can. You end up using the BAE. And so what it's going to come down to is, like, if they use every little bit of the MLE, if they don't move off contracts, it ends up being a, just the 8% max raises year over year over year over 3 years. But if they're able to, maybe it becomes more of a 6% max raises year over year over year. And that would make a lot of sense in terms of, like, hey, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we're going to try to do right by you. But just agree to this number, and if we can, we're going to benefit you a little bit in the long run.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I don't want to ask you any more real questions. we're staring at the finish line for real NBA people, for people that do this for a living. July is an hour away. July 17th is when Summer League ends. There is the World Cup, but does Tim Cato have any non-basketball related summer plans that he's really looking forward to?
Can I ask you a question that I Googled and it's like not online? The Mavs are playing a preseason game in Ljubljana, right?
They
I
have
didn't imagine that. Okay.
They have a rough
and then
overseas
it's Abu
schedule.
Dhabi, right?
2 games.
Yeah. I will not be in Abu Dhabi. I'd love to try to go to Ljubljana. I am not like committed to doing this yet by any means, but I was trying to Google it the other day and like there's no articles on it online, which is very odd.
If it's not there, they're playing one. I thought they were playing against Real Madrid. Am I making that? That's who I thought they were playing, and I thought it was in Spain. Not Ljubljana.
You might be conflating that with Team USA playing Team Slovenia.
See, okay,
and
right.
It's a World Cup warm-up tournament that includes Team Spain, and so it's Team Spain, Team USA, Team Slovenia.
Which is playing
a friendly. I wanted to make it over to that, and it's just that happens in early August, and it's a little too quick. Someone says in the chat it's in Madrid. I thought it was. I'm pretty sure it's in one of the coastal towns. If you could get to because it's just a different world. Like the stuff our buddy Adam Mares did when he went over to Serbia to just and watch some games live there. I think he was there for the Greece versus Serbia game. I could be getting that wrong, but it's like just seeing some of these international competitions. Yeah, Malaga. It's in Malaga.
Okay,
is where this is the international games, and it's kind of a warm up for the World Cup, and it's just and obviously it makes a lot
even
of
friendlies.
I wanted to go for that. It's like a month away, and I haven't even looked into it. It's just,
I guess, man,
that's not going to happen. Honestly, I just wanted the New York Times to fund a trip for me to Malaga. Like, sorry that I have selfish interest at heart here, but yeah, I would love to go back to Ljubljana. Like, obviously, when I went, it was a great time.
Sure.
It feels like a very good time to go back there and kind of do an update of the story I wrote then. And so, fingers crossed.
Fun piece of journalism.
But yeah, I think the Seth deal here. I'll give you a little more Dallas stuff, and then I'll get off so you can keep talking to people. I think the Seth deal makes it. But again, all this stuff, it matters about what they do later on. Why did they sign Kyrie? Why were they bidding against no one? Because I don't know. Fred VanVleet just made more money than Kyrie Irving.
I can't help but wonder if those two, everybody's agents were like, we're gonna make something happen. We're gonna play everybody against one another.
So the rumor was, I don't think I'm saying anything that other people haven't said, or at least rumors that other people have said. The rumor was that Houston was gonna get Fred VanVleet, Brook Lopez, and Dylan Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
And then Toronto came in, and this was all reported that Toronto was really considering throwing the fourth year on there.
Yep.
And I think, just based off everything I saw and a little bit that I heard, that forced Houston to bump up their max. I don't know if that's still the plan for Houston.
I mean, 3 years,
Fred VanVleet was not going to
130.
actually make more. Yeah. Fred VanVleet was not going to actually make more than Kyrie. But again, I don't know if bidding against yourself is a real thing. At some point, you have to pay a player who was an all-star starter last year. You have to compensate him for his actual value. No?
Yeah,
I think if everything, putting aside everything that Kyrie everything that makes Kyrie, he was an all-star starter and he's just barely over 30. That's normally a max player. To get a significant discount on that to the point that you open up your 2 salary slots or your 2 exceptions, I don't know. I'm not out here being like, oh, well, they should have brought it down more, right? Yep. Am I insane? I too in
that's kind of, and that's where I settle.
Because,
the challenge is you get somebody like Bill Simmons who's making fun of the Mavericks, even though he basically predicted the same salary sheet, and he's like, and they had to offer 3 for 120 because somebody was going to offer 2 for 25, and it's like, I don't know what a respectable offer is. I just don't. And I don't want to go about taking somebody else's money. I mean, because we're unlikely. This is true. We're unlikely to see a player of his caliber be in a situation like this the rest of the time we watch the NBA. Like, he is a truly unique person, circumstance, series of unfortunate events. So it's I think I've kind of just decided I'm not going to let it. My buddy Matt Moore, who I wouldn't be shocked if he shows up here tonight, has been trolling, and he swears he's not trolling. He's just like, I don't understand why you would do that. Why you would give somebody.
Was kind of funny.
Yeah, and it's just he was telling me, he's like, I don't understand why you would give somebody this much money if they're not getting any sort of offer anywhere else. My answer back was, like, you're creating a problem if you don't pay him. Like, yeah, he might sign on the dotted line, but at what cost? Like, oh yeah, you're saving, maybe you might get him for 3 years and 92. I'm just making up a number. But
yeah, like, obviously all these meetings were negotiating tactics to some level.
Bullshit. There was no meeting.
No, yeah, you're right. Not even to some level. There was negotiation and it was hyping it up. But if you piss off someone, so like Kirk Henderson, I know you're a petty person. If you got so mad at an employer who was not respecting your perceived level of talent that they were like, yeah, we're going to give you, like, yeah, you might actually go out and do it. Like, it's not fully dissimilar.
No,
like,
it's really not. That's a great comp.
Respect.
You have
to be some level of, yes, we actually value you for the talents of what you bring, for the 27 points per game average that you brought to the team last year on 63% true shooting. Like, that has to be worth some level of money, monetary figure, even if nobody else is interested in that monetary figure. There is still an objective contractual monetary value to on-court production that no level of off-court, drama, just for lack of a better word, everybody knows.
No, that's a great way to finish it out, I think. Thank you, Tim. You go back to your Friday night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay, buddy?
I'm going to sleep soon, so I'm going to text Shams. I'm going to text my buddy,
you know what I got to do tomorrow?
And I'll be like, hey, man, we done for the night? I'm out.
You know what I got to do tomorrow? I have to go to Hawaiian waters in the Colony when it's like 98 degrees. Yeah, and my feet are gonna be burned, and then someone's gonna yell at me. Like, I'll get like a Slack message that I'm gonna. So
I also took a long time in my life to learn this, but I'm younger than you, and I've learned this, so you probably should learn this. You could put sunscreen on your feet. Yeah, that's actually allowed. It took me a long time to learn that, because I was like, I put it on everywhere else, and then I have burnt feet, and I'm like, how the I don't know if I can curse. I can curse on
yes,
the spot,
of course you can. Of course you fucking can.
I was like, how the fuck are my feet burnt? Yes. If I put sunscreen everywhere else, then I'm like, oh, right, I didn't put sunscreen on that part of the body. So
that's why I got burned.
Here's a little tip for you.
Tim, you're a good man for hanging out with us this Friday. You'll be good this weekend.
Absolutely.
We'll talk soon.
Happy to be here.
All right, later, man. Krishna, you're coming up next. What's going on, my guy?
Kirk, how are you?
It's nice when I sort of dread doing these, just because it's like, really, when I used to be able to talk to you guys, I like walk around my house, and it was for anybody. We had a couple of people ask, like, what happened to Spotify Live? Spotify stopped fucking supporting it, so now you have to look at my ugly mug. But I dread starting these, and then I start them, and I'm like, I love this, so I'm glad to talk to you. So what's going on tonight, man?
That's good. I think I get it. Like, Twitter, the thing is, I'm not mad at Twitter. It's like everyone has their own reactions. Like, that's what it is. For me, and I think you and Josh talked about it right after the draft, is what we've seen is kind of just like actual processes. Like, it wasn't just everything in a vacuum. Like, I look at the moves in a vacuum, I'm not really interested in them. But you couple them together, they make sense, right? I don't think they're perfect, but I think they make sense.
Walk me through what makes sense to you so far, because I got to be honest, with the way this free agency has started, I'm a little trepidate. I just to add some concerns.
I don't think it's perfect, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say they hit a home run. Like, I don't think it's that. But I couple the draft and so far what they've done in free agency, it makes a little sense, right? We complained about not having a third ball handler the entire season. I don't think Seth Curry is necessarily even the level of Spencer or, Jalen. He's not. But I trust him doing a little bit pick and roll, a little bit more playmaking, because Jaden Hardy is not going to do that, even at his like upper reaches, upper levels. It may be like he can pass, but I don't think he's not a point guard, right?
No.
He is far closer to a shooting guard than he is a point guard. And so having someone who is a veteran presence in that way, I think is helpful. And then what it does is it gives you the ability to move off Tim. Like Tim's contract now, I think is way more valuable, especially with what some other guys are getting, and especially when shooting is a bigger need than ever for a lot of teams.
Krishna, you've been coming to these shows for like 3 years. We need to take a minute and talk about how fucking wild it is that Tim Hardaway Jr. is considered an asset. We were
really
ready
is.
to burn him at the stake in December.
I mean, look, I get it. It's like he is flaky for sure. Like I don't doubt that. But it's what happens when one, the cap goes up, and two, the CBA is what it is. Where when you have a guy, what I think he's making like close to 20, right? He might make less because I think his contract was one of those where it descends over time. Unless I'm making stuff up.
No, it is. It's a descending contract. Yeah.
And so it's like, well, that's valuable, right? If you literally just need a shooter, well, what you might as well pick him up because he's proven to 17 mil is still Tim says. Like 17 mil for a guy who has done it in the playoffs, who has been a pretty good shooter throughout his career. Yes, flaky, but if he's like your sixth man, you're not necessarily going to complain that you're paying your sixth man $17 million, right?
Sure.
Like, so it's crazy. I agree with you. It is crazy that's happened, but I think it's somewhat a miracle in many ways. It's a miracle that the CBA is what it is, and it's a miracle that the Mavs didn't sell low on him when they could have, I feel like. But I'm not super high on free agency. I think the draft has made me a little calmer because I definitely was anxious because when they traded back to 12 and they took the TPE, I was definitely pretty miffed because this team and really teams in general don't have a history of using TPEs really
Nobody
well.
uses TPEs. Nobody does. That was one thing my friend Matt was right about. He's like, don't talk to me about, trade exceptions. Nobody uses them because he's right.
I mean, exactly. I was in another live stream during the draft and I was like, when is the last time a team actually used a TPE and it benefited them, especially the Mavericks, who had, I think, the largest TPE.
Fucking dust chip.
Yeah, like it's and the worst part of TPEs is you cannot combine it with other things.
No.
Like that is the worst part of it. So when that happened, I was like, I'm glad, okay, you moved off of the Bertans contract for really nothing. Like really you got off it for nothing, which is what you needed, and that's fine. And then I like the process of going in at 24 and getting a guy who you wanted to select anyways. Like I think it was that if the Mavericks had moved to 15 and Lively gone 14 to the Pelicans, it seemed like they would have taken Omax there, which I don't know if that would have been a reach, but that's what it is.
They should have taken Maxwell Lewis and then also taken Omax, and then I would just it'd be unable to speak to me.
I wanted them to buy into the second round because I think this was the last year you can buy into the second round. Now, unless I'm wrong, I don't
know. I got a red line version of the CBA. It's 800 pages. I'm not.
It's like 674 or something stupid. Like I don't want to, but I think I know for sure that the Mavs obviously aren't. But if you're over the second apron, I know for sure you cannot use cash in trades for picks. I know that for sure. I don't know if that's just an all teams thing, but I know that's a second apron thing. So I mean, look, the process of like, hey, you get Lively, who you're going to pick at 10 anyways. You get Omax, who you would have taken if you moved even lower in the draft. That's smart. Right. Like those are not necessarily day one. Hey, they fit, like you're immediately up, but it's like you have guys who are legitimately younger who fill potential needs or current needs and have the potential to fill them. And I don't even like in terms of expectations, like what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to be contributors in the way that, Lively is going to be completely dominant on the post and Omax is going to be a shutdown defender. I do think they can still contribute, right? Like they're going to have maybe a game or two where they stand out, but most of the time they're going to make mistakes. They're going to have moments that are rough, but that's part of like development. It's why you have to have young players overall, right? Like we always forget Luka is 24, and it's insane to think that, you talked about it and I talked about it all the time, how it made no sense to me. Jason Kidd talking about this team like it was young, when I think even at that time you had 3 guys who are under 25 on that team.
Yeah.
So now it makes somewhat sense, though. I think it's all dependent. Like I'm not going to completely react and say this was a horrible free agency or a horrible offseason. And I'm not.
I mean, I didn't have high expectations for.
No, I don't think you did.
If they come away with, I think they're going to do something with Tim.
I think so too. And I'm hesitant because I think, yes, you need to play Lively. Do you need to start him? I'm not like 100% sure on that. I think it all depends on like, can they get off like a JaVale? Can they move Tim? Can they get someone who is like, it's hard because I think someone like in a weird way, someone like a Mason Plumlee or like even a Jakob Poeltl would have been an interesting one where it's like you can start them, but if you bring them off the bench, I don't think it would have been horrific. But the problem is, one, you didn't have the money for Jakob Poeltl. That's one. And two, like, do you want to do that when your center rotation is what it is right now? It is clearly overstocked. But yeah, it's interesting. But I do think the interesting implications for me is I like the Omax trade also because it kind of replicates what we found so much success with in the 22 playoffs, where Reggie was the chaser for guards, which I think Josh is.
This is where I lose my fucking mind. They're so concerned with centers, and it's like, how did we get to the Western Conference Finals? It wasn't because of Dwight Powell. It was Reggie Bullock and it was Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith playing incredible defense. They played 700 minutes in the playoffs. Like that's how we got there.
Yeah,
I mean, shit just drives me crazy.
It made sense why they were so cooked the next season. Like, yeah, I don't think it's just because they were old. It's because they played 700 minutes in some of the most intense playoff games that they could ever have played. So it made sense, right? And I think Josh and Omax, hopefully in the future, I don't think right now, but that the idea is they replicate what those guys did. And then I think what it does is you've talked about it and I've talked about it, is it just lessens the burdens on guys like Reggie, guys like Maxey, guys, if Tim stays, Tim. But you don't have to ask them to make a ton of threes, to play lockdown defense every single minute. Like we talked about it, Maxey should not play more than 25 minutes now. And if maybe you get another big who's like rotational, Maxey's not playing more than 25 minutes. Maxey doesn't have to be the rim defender because he's not ever a rim defender.
I don't want to have to think about Maxey for like weeks at a time.
But that's the positive. I think that's the positive of getting a Lively is just like you're not having to sit there and go, oh my God, like Maxey's injured, like, or Maxey's literally the only big we have that fits the system. It's like he's not anymore now. This is all theory. It's all conjecture. We'll have to see how it goes. But I think it's exciting that there is actual young talent on this team and that it feels like every move is not just a vacuum move. Like we just went and we signed a player. It feels like there's at least a little bit more thought. I don't know how good it is or how bad it is, but it's not terrible. And yeah, Seth did hard cap us, but if we move off JaVale, I think we get the MLE back, or I think you can sign and trade Grant, which that might happen because I think the Celtics are also they don't have enough.
I don't know why. I have nothing. I have no reason to believe this. I sort of think that happens mainly because I don't like Grant Williams. So the things that like when Dylan Brooks got signed, or didn't Brooks get signed by Houston? Am I making that up?
Did he? I haven't seen it.
I need Dylan Brooks to get signed because I can't have him on the Mavericks.
I would rather Grant Williams than Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, yes.
For all of Grant Williams, like whatever his problems are, he's at least maker. He's been productive. He has had productive moments. Like I always think like game 7 last year versus the Bucks, like he took shots, he made shots, and like he chirped at Butler and it like totally backfired. Like I don't think
there's all that stuff from Ryan Russillo over like the last 2 or 3 years, how like other Celtics didn't like him. And like that was like, okay, good. That can't be good. Like the people who you're around every day think you're annoying. I certainly know what that's like. Do you got anything else before we head out?
I think I think I'm weirdo. I like waiting and seeing. Sure. I'll wait till the preseason starts, and if I think the roster is still this, I will definitely get mad. But
we're gonna have a lot of fun stuff to talk about in the preseason because Tim alluded to this. They play all these damn games overseas, and teams that do that start slow. So it's like we're gonna come with a young, weird team play all these games overseas, which could be great for bonding, but also I think might be bad for actual cohesive basketball. But we'll talk about that at the time.
I agree. Summer League will be fun, though.
It will be fun.
We do not have to just sit there and say, wow, AJ Lawson and Jaden Hardy, they were good. Now we can actually say some other players were good.
That's right.
Which will be nice.
Right. Well, Krishna, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Kirk. You have a good night.
All right, you too. All right. So coming up next is going to be my man Micah and then Rain. We got a lot of people. I'm going to go through everybody. All right. So everybody just be patient with me. We'll get to everybody. Speaking of that, like you guys are gonna make fun of me. I was like talking to Nick Angstead about this. Like Nick does it. Like this is Nick's job. Like Nick works for Locked On. He's a smart guy. And I don't know how the hell I'm gonna record when I'm in Vegas because like the internet quality out there is garbo. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do these like video type things because I can't get internet. I might have to find somebody bringing local, do like something on the screen here, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Oh, anyway, we'll figure it out. All right. So do me a favor, like the stream, subscribe to the show. We during the regular season, if you guys are new here by any weird stretch, during the regular season, after every single game that I watch, which is probably 80 of 82 games, we'll go live like this. We'll talk about the game and we'll figure out what's what. Micah, my guy, how you doing on this Friday night? What's up?
What's going on, Kirk? How's life treating you?
I'm okay. No, there are no realistic complaints. Everything is good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Just kind of watching everything. Things are getting crazy.
You see that Tyrese Halliburton thing?
No, I haven't seen that.
Tyrese Halliburton has come to terms with like the 5-year super ridiculous extension that could be worth close to over $250 million with the Pacers.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's correct. That is the correct response.
Yeah. But it's just like, I don't know. This Fred VanVleet getting that contract is still shocking. Kirk, I'm not going to lie. I feel like at times I'm punished in the Discord for watching disgusting amounts of basketball. Because, I'm a single guy that watches 6, 7, 8, probably 10 teams.
No, my mother is 70 and does the same thing. Like I bought her league pass and she just watches games all night. So like that's my favorite. I don't know if you ever see me tweet about this. She'll call me like 2 days after. She's like, well, the Mavericks have 2 new draft picks. And I'm like, Karen, what do you think I do all the time? And she's just like, she watches all these games. It's great. It's great stuff.
I mean, it's great. But it's just like, look, I watched that 2019 run. It was awesome. Fred ain't that guy no more, Kirk. He's just not. Like I watched a lot of Toronto games, and look, I'm sorry, but when you're on the same roster as Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, Gary Trent, and Scotty Barnes, and you can't make the play-in, what do you think? Like it's something
my favorite comment I saw was that he's making more per year than he shot in field goal percentage.
Oh, good. Oh, it was so bad. It's terrible because his shot selection is disgusting.
He just takes all threes because he can't get in the lane. His 2-point, like Tim Hardaway secretly had the lowest 2-point percentage of like years, and that's Fred VanVleet's whole thing.
Yeah, they're a lot of the same guy. Fred is better defensively. Not really though. But he's not a $40 million player.
And listen to this. The chat just talked about this. Memphis Grizzlies are giving Desmond Bane the 5-year, $207 million max extension. So he's basically getting the money that Ja Morant fucked up, which is just remarkable.
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's just like you see the discourse on people. It was just like even the God bless him or something like that. Even the Bill Simmons comments where it's like, oh, well, they gave all this money to Kyrie. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
Tell me how much fun you're having when you realize you paid almost the same amount of money for a center that can't post up Kyrie. And
yeah, well, for sure.
I mean, it's just like people, and I get it. It's like you're covering 4 or 5 different sports, and you got a family and everything else going on. It's impossible to watch all these teams. So, like when you're making your analysis based off of nothing more than highlights and box scores, you're not seeing the whole story.
Not to interrupt you. This is why the Mavericks. There's a lot of reasons why the Mavericks tried to draft up and trade for Tyrese Halliburton way back in the day. He just tweeted out a 34-second clip of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, laughing evilly. Like, that's the kind of player I want on my team. Somebody that knows his culture. That's just what I'm here for.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah. So.
He is so good.
He's also really good at basketball. Yeah, right.
So good. Before he got hurt, he had that team in the playoffs. I'm sorry, but you have that team in playoff position. You got to be good at basketball, Kirk. It's just
right. Well, what any other Mavs stuff you're thinking on your mind tonight?
I'm interested with Seth. I'm wondering if, like, I don't want to. What I would love to say, maybe that means THJ is on the move.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched the same team roster Boban, Moses Brown, KP.
The bad center lineup is just, when you really go through Basketball Reference, like 2013 alone, there's like Eddie Curry, Chris Kaman. Like, it's just such shit. Like, they are cursed for letting Tyson Chandler go. That's the problem.
Right. Oh, our disgusting center lineup is historically bad. You can even go back with Evan Eschmeyer, who Mark Cuban thought was going to be a guy. That's a throwback.
Like, he played like 36 games and made like $35 million. Like, just an incredible deal. And he's now like an insurance agent in Nebraska. I looked him up the other day because he's just one of those guys that I always remember. Evan Eschmeyer, the legend.
Right.
The legend.
That's almost like whenever Broussard was saying that Dirk was overrated, and I was just like, let me tell you something. You don't make it to the finals with a center rotation of the Saginaw Diop and Eric Dampier if you're overrated.
It's incredible.
That does not happen.
Oh, man, thanks for waiting and hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, man. Good time. All right, you have a good one.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Okay, coming up next, my man from south of the equator, Rain. What's going on, my guy?
Hey there, Kirk.
How's the day
I'm going to be
going?
honest. Confusing.
Okay,
We'll put it that way. I haven't seen too much of what's happening in free agency. I sort of woke up to it. Free agency happened early hours of the morning here. So I'm aware, obviously, that we signed Kyrie to what I think is an incredibly fair deal. As you discussed with Cato, there's only so much of a discount you can ask a man to take before he's going to look for other options. And with Kyrie, I feel like you offer him anything less than what he got, you all but guarantee that by the trade deadline, he's asking for a trade.
Yeah.
And that's would almost be understandable because do you want to work at a place? I've worked at places where I didn't feel respected, and I left. I moved on, and I would not blame Kyrie for doing that in that situation either. I've had one thought about Powell coming back, and that is if he comes back on a minimum, I can accept it because
that's what's going to happen. That just accept that into your heart. I don't know what a minimum is for him because he's played forever, but it's a minimum.
It's about 2.9 million from what I understand. But
okay,
if he can come back and just mentor Lively, imagine if we could have Dwight Powell's effort and energy and someone with a 7'1" height with 7'7" wingspan. Like, imagine if Dwight Powell, when he goes to rebound and he can't, he just sort of slaps it and tips it like he does. If he actually had the arms and the hands to just grab that thing.
Sure.
If Derek Lively could just be
pretty good at the thing that Lively is going to have to learn, and this I don't know if he can do this or not because Duke didn't do it. That Dwight is quite good at is the setting of a screen.
Yeah. Well, and again, who better to teach him to set a screen with Luca than the best screen setter that Luca's
Right.
had?
People who hate Powell agree that he sets good screens.
He rolls hard. He sets a good screen, and that's I used to clown on him, and then someone showed me the numbers, and I had to sit back and go, damn, because I'm going to be honest, I basically watch the Mavs, and then I watch some games here and there. I don't have, I'm an adult.
People
I have
that
things
watch
to do.
people that watch all sorts of games, I'm always like, okay, you're amazing. I can't do it.
Yeah, so no offense to anyone out there, I just simply don't have the time, especially with the time zones. I don't have the time to follow too many other
You're
things.
picking and choosing at your own health, like
So,
sleep.
so if he can just come back and even just be a mentor to teach him how to screen, instill some effort, some good old veteran shit. Okay, that also probably sets Lively up to be able to potentially be a starter sometime, maybe in the next 2 years. I might be really high on Omax, but I'm genuinely with what I've seen. His catch and shoot was, I know overall his 3-point percentage was low, it was like 34%, but his catch and shoot numbers was 38. Now, Dorian Finney-Smith's catch and shoot numbers last year was somewhere in the 35, 36 range.
Yeah.
So, and, I love DFS, but he was a little cooked last season. So, we could genuinely see Omax come in and, factoring in the mistakes and the fouling that he's going to make, probably give us 80 to 85% of what Dorian Finney-Smith was last season. And I know you don't want to talk about Maxi, but there's a genuine possibility that he might play the 4 rather than the 5. And that's his more natural position. And even if he's taking a step back, if he has to, bang in the paint a little bit less, maybe he can be on the court more. And I mean, we forget that in those Clipper series, like obviously no one's going to guard Kawhi when he's going off and he's healthy. But
yeah,
I think Maxi did about as fair of a job as anyone can reasonably be expected to do.
Yeah.
And if he can give us, maybe with injuries, maybe if he can give us 70% of what that was, he might be able to make do with Omax and Maxi at the forward position for a little while until Omax can step up. I would hope they can get a Williams. I know you're not
everyone on the stream is witnessing me having a hamstring cramp and not screaming into the mic. So you're welcome. Sorry about that. That's
genuinely impressive. I'll filibuster some time for you.
I'm better now. I was like, oh fuck me.
That's impressive. Now, I know you're not the biggest fan of Grant Williams. I happen to be all right with his personality. I feel like that in our locker room might be of some value. Also, there's the fact that he's a Luka fan. Already.
Yeah, no, that's true. He does wear Luka's shoes and he kissed Luka's ass all year. There's a lot to be said there.
And maybe it might just be good to have guys that want to play together. Sure. Who, like, not that they've been on the same team and know each other, but generally I have the desire to come here and play with you. And it'd probably be a good thing for Luka's perception around the league, to be honest, that we're not relying 100% on Kyrie to be the recruiter for other players, because other players clearly want to play for Kyrie, and I feel like that's an underrated thing about having him on the roster, is that it genuinely might be someone willing to take an older vet, willing to take a flyer on playing for the Mavericks simply because, hey, Kyrie's there and I'd like to play with him. If either one player ever does that, Kyrie's probably brought more value than we realize.
Yep.
And if people can say, look and see, hey, this guy wanted to play with Luka and it did well, because let's be honest, with what we saw with what happened when Dorian went to the Nets, I think we can clearly see that playing next to Luke is going to get you some extra zeros, because I don't know if Dorian on any other team can shoot Neff.
No, he cannot.
38%.
He cannot shoot.
So,
yeah.
So playing next to Luka is probably a good idea if you want to add some zeros. And I'm not I do not like Dylan Brooks, but if he's the last guy we can get, we could probably expect that in a Mavs system with Luka feeding him the most wide open threes. If he has to come to Jesus moment and realizes that he is not that guy on offense and does not need shots except for wide opens,
Yeah.
that might be manageable. Big question mark, but might even be manageable. Not my preferred outcome, but
Sure. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with us today, my guy.
No, all right, so that's it, Kirk. I'll go research what's actually happened.
No, that's fine. I get it. It's early. Enjoy your day.
No,
talk soon.
See ya.
So I saw a couple of people in the chat deriding Dwight Powell. I'm not going to defend Dwight Powell. What I am going to defend is the concept of certain skills which are wildly underrated. The ability to set a screen is extremely important if you have a dominant pick and roll ball handler. Luka Doncic, often last year, did not use screens. He would do rub screens and set up mismatches and bully ball the shit out of whoever guarded him. I think if you're going to have Derek Lively on the team, and he is on the team, and you're going to utilize him properly, he and his skinny ass frame needs to figure out how to properly set a screen. And Powell's not a bad teacher to do that. He's just not. I don't want him to play a lot either. And I'm worried about him being on the team solely from the sense of, will they go to him because he's there? That does concern me. But I don't mind him for a minimum. So, all right, we got 3 folks left, but we can keep talking. Div X-Ray down there in the chat. What's going on? But I don't mind him for a minute. All right, we got 3 folks left, but we can keep talking. Div X-Ray down there in the chat. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can. We have a little bit
Okay,
of a
I have to
time delay.
unmute this one here. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No, we're good. How's the audio delay now? Because it sounded like it was about 15 seconds, which I wasn't sure that was going to work.
So what I would say is I actually like what they did.
Top-notch quality tonight.
Yeah, there's a delay.
All right. Well, I'll let you speak your piece. Why don't you go with that?
Okay. So basically, I think what the Mavs did with Kyrie was good. It's good for Kyrie and the team, right? 2 years, he could walk. You free up the cap space, whatever, right? You go for some other free agents. And at the same time, I look at it as you can also have, if it does work out, you still have options, right? It's not I was worried they're going to go to 4 years and so forth. So I'm kind of glad it's 2 and 1 option. That's fine. The other thing is, I'm wondering with the Seth Curry, if they're actually looking to make a trade. And I'm just wondering, do you think Atlanta would be interested in doing a deal? Because we have 2 guys like Tim Hardaway's he's got 2 years left. Rashawn Holmes has 2 years left. JaVale McGee has 2 years left. And then if they give us Clint Capella and Hunter has 4 years. And it's a bad contract for how he played last year. He was pretty bad. So if they're willing to do that, we can get Clint and Hunter for Tim Hardaway, Rashawn Holmes, and JaVale McGee. And it's something that would work. We would take on a little over $3 million, I think, on that deal, right? But I think it would work. So I'm almost wondering if that's what they're setting up, some deal like this. I'm just curious to see what you think, Kirk.
I do think they're setting up a deal. I'm not sure what kind of deal they're going to set up. What you just described there sort of undercuts elements of what Atlanta's done, but Atlanta's books are so bad, and plus their GM is basically like a 27-year-old, like the owner's son. So I don't really know how things end up with them. I do think that they end up trading Timmy somewhere, though. And I do think they include McGee somehow, some way, but that might just be me wish casting.
Okay. I could see that. The other thing I'm wondering, like, I feel like Kyrie's getting a lot of bad rap, man. I think he's a good teammate.
Kyrie Irving, I mean, I don't necessarily think he's a bad teammate, but I do think he does exactly what he wants to do, and that can prove problematic over time. Right now, I have no Kyrie-related concerns for the Mavericks, though I do, while he's with the Mavericks, that sort of thing is just going to haunt the back of my mind. Right now, I have no Kyrie-related concerns for the Mavericks, though I do, while he's with the Mavericks, that sort of thing is just going to haunt the back of my mind.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go here because it's harder with the delay. But thanks for letting me come on. Keep up the good work. It's a good show.
Oh yeah, it's always fun to sometimes we do get weird audio delays, but I appreciate you hanging out with us. For everybody who's been in the show for a while, I really do appreciate you. We have 2 people left. My buddy John, what's going on, John?
What's up, man? Man, I appreciate you fighting through the injury.
That was like, I don't know. I mean, I work on a lot of deadlift stuff because since I tore up my knee, my hamstring, and my quad have always been really weak. And it wasn't even on my bad knee. I'm just like sitting here and I moved my leg and it was like, good Lord, I'm 39. Like I'm not 17. What is happening?
Yeah. No, podcasting isn't easy. That's the lesson
what
there.
Travis Kelce said. Podcasting is like the hardest job in the world. And I'm just gonna say I agree with Travis Kelce. So
yeah, sometimes you really pull something and you don't even know. Man, I'm so and you know, I'm excited about this team. Like you think about last year sucked. Like it sucked to watch the Mavericks play. It sucked to watch them trudge through the season.
Everything from January on was garbo.
It was awful. And as we've I mean, as you know, like I was at the 60-20. I was at the peak of the Mavericks season was that Luka game against the Knicks. That it was that run, that 10-12 game run where Luka was just unbelievable and was just dragging a team of guys like they should not have. It was awful. And I'm kind of excited about I am actually excited that they have gone all in on young players, good play, and it could be an absolute mess, but like Luka, Kyrie, Seth excites me. Like that's fun. I think that's going to be fun. Those 3 guys are always going to be on the court together is really fun. That they went and got a center that he's probably going to play. Lively's going to play 20 minutes a game, right? Like. Hopefully,
that's my hope.
I mean, and can just go. I mean, I watched a bunch of his highlights, and just looking at it, just like he's going to make mistakes, he's going to screw up, he's going to have to figure a lot out. But like, there are going to be a couple plays of games where Luka can just throw the ball at the rim, and he goes and dunks the shit out of it in a way that no one on this roster has been able to do for the last few years. He's going to block.
He better not put out highlight tapes like Willie Cauley-Stein. I don't want to see. I don't want to see Derek Lively mixed up.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, he's going to block shot. I mean, I think he's just going to do things that are they have fun players. Like they went to the Western Conference Finals with guys that were all like really knew their role and then really, to me, did better than they overachieved. Everybody overachieved. And now they have guys that like some of them are going to overachieve, but even if they just kind of do what it seems like they can do, I don't know. I just want it to be a fun season. It seems like they've got more players that it could be a fun season. Whereas this last year, it was like, I just hope Reggie Bullock hits shots. I just hope someone does this. And it feels like there's going to be games where Hardy. When I look at the roster, it just feels more fun. I don't know. That's such a weird way to evaluate.
No,
the
new
team.
is fun. That's been Josh Bowe and I's
Yeah.
gripe for years. Like, we want something different, and this is different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Seth Curry, like, realistically speaking, they haven't actually signed anyone new yet. They still it's like a TV show that brings back like somebody from several seasons before. That's what we have.
Yeah, but I mean, Hardy, Josh Green, Lively, Omax, just those guys. Like, who knows what they're gonna do? That's more fun than Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dinwiddie, just running it back. I don't know, and hopefully. I mean, but it could all go so bad. That's the other. I mean, it could. Those guys could underperform. Kyrie could go nuts. We don't know what he's going to share on YouTube or Instagram. We don't know.
I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong. But that's every year. Like, Luka twists an ankle or hurts a knee, and then the season goes sideways.
Yeah, and that is a. You and I are long time Mavs. It is so weird. The Mavs were so consistent for so long, just like building and kind of moving around dirt, and that was how the NBA was.
Yep.
You kind of had one guy, and then you just moved a little bit around him, and you could sort of build a team around. You could build a contender around one guy, and now there's so much up in the air. But I do love that within 2 years they swung really young, really exciting. I'm at least excited to see these guys, because it's not like I hope these veterans that they signed are going to be good. It's like 4 or 5 guys that are young that I hope do well versus
I think it's interesting.
Veterans that I hope overperform, right? Like,
sure.
or perform to what we know they have. Yeah.
That's where I am in this in sort of my current Mavs team cycle. It's like, I want to see shit I've not seen before. I want to get mad at new people. I want to see new mistakes. I want to see different Jason Kidd nonsense euphemisms. I don't listen to The Ticket very much. Somebody made me tune in and listen to the Jason Kidd impersonator the other day. I about died. I don't remember who the guy's name was, but apparently the guy's been calling in since like 2008. He has the same cadence. Like, Jason Kidd has like the ability to make a mundane like answer where it's like, this is a cell phone. And it's like, it was just the sort of weird shit the guy was saying. I was like, I can't wait for Kidd to have new things where it's just like, I'm just I'm sure he's going to call himself like a Jedi Master or something weird. I'm looking forward to it. Is my point? Just like you.
Yeah, I remember. So I remember when Kidd played for the Mavericks, and my dad making the joke that he's got the personality of a styrofoam cup, and like that's about it. Like, he's just this bland guy. Yeah, it is going to be fun. I am excited about watching the Mavericks. I'm excited to watch Luke and Kyrie for a season. I'm excited.
Sorry, the chat's mad at me. I don't fucking listen to The Ticket. I don't mean to kill you guys. Like, I don't listen to The Ticket. I don't listen to talk radio. I listen to podcasts. I'm not a 70-year-old man. I'm gonna offend half the people. The guys of The Ticket are great.
Nope.
I don't have a radio, so it's like it's just never been a thing for me. When I first was graduated from college, I liked podcasts because I worked in a basement. I could not get radio in the basement.
Did you listen? Wait, did you listen to The Ticket in high school though?
No, because The Ticket started in like 2002. I left the area then, or maybe more than like late 90s, maybe.
No, yeah, it was like,
you're like 25 years old now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So 98, 99,
What's that?
1998. I was a freshman in high school. So
okay, yeah, I think I mean, I remember listening to it in high school.
I listened to a shit ton.
I love The Ticket.
Lots of angry Linkin Park.
94.5. 94.5 The Edge.
The Edge. That was me.
Yeah. Yes. I was a big The Edge guy. Yeah. I remember buying a and I'll have it, but I remember going to a game at the American Airlines Center with my dad. And after the game, the ticket would do the post game show, way up in the American Airlines Center. I forget where it was, but I remember going up there with him, and this probably was like 2001. I
24-hour sports talk radio is brilliant. It's just brilliant,
unbelievable. So I remember going up there and buying a CD of the ticket, like the best of like their bits, like the ticket bits, and they had one where it was the fake Bob Ortigal.
Yeah.
That was.
I hope Bob Ortigal is still alive. Bob Ortigal was just that dude's cadence. I can see that being a radio boom.
It was so good. I used to run into him at the Tom Thumb by my house. Yeah. And so I remember buying that CD, and it was just the best of the ticket bits. It was basically all Gordo. So I'm glad to relive some old ticket nostalgia with you there, or I mean, not the ticket, but just
old Dallas
DFW,
shit.
DFW.
Well,
DFW radio.
So this is completely off base. I don't really care. Did anybody see the NPR Tiny Desk performance today from Juvenile? 30 minutes long.
I've not watched.
It's fucking amazing. I sent it to everybody I went to high school with, and here's the real kicker, and the people who have been around the Dallas area forever. I texted it to like 30 friends, and all I said was Hot 100, Hot 100, because they used to insert that into all their songs, including Back That Ass Up by Juvenile. Anyway, go find Tiny Desk NPR. It's like an incredible 30 minutes. Like just all that. Anyways, what other Mavs stuff you have on? Because I have to get to Ruben because I want to go to bed.
Yeah, I've got nothing. I think I'm more excited about this Mavs season than anybody else that's been on the podcast so far. On
you should be happy.
Yeah,
let's just be fun.
Like like you said, it will be different. It won't be Dwight Powell running it back. It won't be Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm excited about the new guys. I'm excited about the young guys, and I think if they went, the thing I wanted to ask you about, if they went this route with the draft and not trading the pick for a veteran, they probably ran that by Luka, right? Like, or they had to think Luka is they at least thought Luka is in for another year or two.
Okay, this is a great thing to kind of close on. This current CBA, one of the main aims of it was to make it extraordinarily painful for super duper stars to ask out of they want to stop this. Oh, just sign your deal and then you can get traded later shit. That was a key
Bradley Beal thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think the Mavericks have bought themselves some time to unfuck themselves is my short answer.
Yeah.
So
and I like that. Yeah. All right. Good.
We'll talk soon.
Good catching up, Kirk. Yeah.
All right. So before I bring on Ruben, I want to read you Scoop B. Everybody know at Scoop B, Brandon Scoop Robinson. Interesting guy. No real comment on the quality of the reporting. He works for Bally Sports, but he says Mavs and Dylan Brooks' interest is mutual, I'm told. Brooks believes he can fit on the roster with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and get along with Irving, which just that part kills me. Like, and is capitalized. That means Brooks, like, nobody likes Dylan Brooks. It's hard to do. No one likes him. Sources on Brooks' side tell Bally Sports that the perception of Brooks as a bad guy are just not true, and that the free agent has more to offer any team than just being a goon or a defender for hire. Well, yeah, I'm sure he does, because the man takes 15 shots a game. Ruben, what do you got? Unmute yourself. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I was just enjoying this stream. Hell of a stream. Y'all tell us so many topics. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see you laughing because that Tiny Desk thing. Like America needs to know about Tiny Desk from
I
NPR.
watched it and like a little behind the scenes because on some music producer side, Manny Fresh did an interview where he said like all the music you heard from the 90s of Cash Money, he was doing it on this thing that could only do like 8 sounds alone. So every song in there can only have like 2 sounds pretty much.
And it's
So
it's there's like a modern, and I don't know anything about music, but
well,
like
modern you can use however many sounds now, but back
so
then,
many modern pop songs play the same 4 chords.
Yeah.
So it's like that's just an element of that where it's like all this music sounds like you're like, oh, I love this song because I've heard it 40 fucking times. That's
Yeah,
why.
It's only
I
so
love
many
it.
keys on the piano, but yeah,
I love it.
but
Inject it into the skull.
But no, I wanted to say, and I'll be real quick so you can get some rest. But no, I definitely like. I was a big proponent of going with youth, or just having a good mixture of youth. And I feel like being a Mavs fan, a lifelong Mavs fan, we have a young core, which I could not say for the life of me for like years and years. And I'm including Luka in that as well because he's only 24. And the people that may be upset, like you're trying to rush Luka into a ring. Again, as a lifelong Mavs fan, it took dirt. No matter what players you put around them, it took losses in the playoffs. It took getting to the finals and then losing. That's why I hate the Heat with a passion. But I'm not one of the fans to rush Luka. And what you just said about the CBA, even before the CBA, I wasn't afraid of Luka leaving anywhere because it just hasn't happened. I mean, you can say KD and Harden, but Harden, KD, Westbrook were all on the same team in Oklahoma, and I wouldn't want to leave Oklahoma for a cheaper contract. But that's just my bias. Being from Texas, but
the real challenge with team building around any of these like what you would call like your LeBron James, your Anthony Davis, theoretically your Zion Williams, who just keeps getting into his own trouble, is if you're constantly rushing because you're worried about them leaving, you kind of create the situation where they want to leave. So how about you just build the fucking team? Like I'm going to be really interested in what San Antonio does because if like they're going to have to hold Wemby back. Because he's going to want to win a bunch of games. And honestly, it doesn't serve the team. It doesn't. Not in the long term.
Well, I think looking at where San Antonio is at, yes, you have your superstar now. Unless he is like Luka and kind of literally Luka playing so well, pretty much forced your hand. It's hard to lose with good players. And we haven't seen Wemby play, in the NBA, but I would be okay. I believe in Wemby, but I just never seen a player built like that.
Sure.
Since KD thrive in the NBA, so I'm not gonna go off and say,
sure.
They can still build with youth and organically, just because hey, you can play good, but the team you're on is just shit right now, and nobody wants to play in San Antonio right now while rebuilding. I said that to say this, but I'm glad we have. I don't think we're done in free agency. I didn't see any trades. We still have the MLE. We can still move some pieces. But I am super, like John said. I love being excited about young players, watching young players, because it's just a different energy. I don't watch the Pistons. But, with the moves they have made, like today, it's kind of like it piqued my curiosity. Like, I'm not sure where they're at in their rebuild. You have Cade, you have Ivy, you have one of the Thompson twins now. You have Wiseman. I think they still have what's the Euro guy that they wanted the Mavs to get. I totally forgot. But they have him. They added some other pieces in free agency just today. So I'm kind of curious to see them where they'll end up. Because I think they're above the peak to where they won't have like a high pick anymore. And I had a quick question for you,
sure,
if you don't mind. is the pick we still owe the Knicks, is that still protected?
Top 10, yeah. And then
Top
after
10.
if like shit were to truly go raw again, then after that it somehow transfers into 2 second-round picks, which I don't understand how that works because Mavericks don't have a second-round pick until Christ returns. So don't get it. Don't understand. There's a lot of stuff I don't understand. This is why I brought CBA Mavs on, because I was just like, dude, I don't get accounting. Can you help?
I love that pod, by the way. And the Dylan Brooks thing, I feel like you hate Dylan Brooks until he's on your team. Almost like Pat Bev. And I saw people screaming for Pat Bev to be on this team if we could pull it off.
He would have to change the way he plays on offense entirely. Like, people don't. He shot more times per game than any Maverick we have had during the entire Luka era, other than Kristaps Porzingis and Kyrie Irving. Think about that. That's a lot of players. He heaves. If he took like 8 shots a game, sure. He takes 14. So he would have to change his mind.
Yeah, who else did they have in Memphis, though? You know, Ja's working on his 3. Bane is the only
Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr.
That's it. It can't be from one person, or I'll just double this guy. Who else gonna shoot it? Like,
it's pretty wild that like the season ended and they were like, get this guy the fuck out. Like,
I'm super excited about the Mavs. I love it. I can't wait to see what they do with trading. I think we still got a couple more moves, but with the young guys, I'm more like you, Kurt. I hope, and that's what, before I leave, if we re-sign Powell, I feel like Powell is a crutch for the coaches. Yeah, he does the coach thing right, like, but you don't want him. You don't want a coach falling in love about the little plays that he does, and we know he is shit on defense and rebounding. Like, it's just a crutch for J Kidd, and I hope we don't fall into that. And I hope Lively gets as much time, but I hope we do pick up maybe like a vet, not a high dollar vet, to take some pressure off of him until he gets in his groove. But thank you, Kirk. Great pod, and I'll keep listening. Thank you.
This was fun. All right, guys. Great time. Just after midnight here. It's July. Everybody get excited. Got a couple more days of free agency. Stuff will probably pan out. If something big happens, I'll maybe record again. Otherwise, I'll try to record a Tuesday on Josh. Summer League comes up. I'm heading to Vegas Friday. I'll be there, trying to do some boots on the ground stuff insofar as I can. If you're going to Vegas, seek me out. I'll come say hi. Particularly at the arena. The Mavericks play some good daytime games. There's also this weird thing going on out there called NBA Con, which I'm going to try to go to. It's a literal NBA convention. The tickets are like $300. So if I can't like get a media credential, I ain't going because I ain't made of money. Thanks for hanging out. You guys are great. What a interesting start to the offseason. Everybody be good. Go Mavs.